Welcome back. The Defense Department says it's getting closer to a reciprocity setup for CMMC and FedRAMP. The number one complaint some vendors have about the FedRAMP process is how long it takes to get an authority to operate. Mary Lazzeri is Director of Federal Strategy at CivicActions. She's writing about the ATO process in FCW. Mary, welcome. Thanks for coming on the program. You write in this piece, the muddled bureaucratic process to obtain an ATO and launch an IT system inside government has become a pervasive threat to system security. How so, Mary? That sounds counterintuitive.
Yeah, it is counterintuitive. I agree. Well, if you think about it, there's a few ways in which the ATO process is contributing to a lack of security. If we're launching a product in the first place, we're probably replacing a system that maybe has security vulnerabilities of its own, or maybe it's built on software that's no longer supported, or it must be an inefficient system generally. And the longer it takes us to go through these authority to operate these ATO processes, the longer that system sits out there in operation, which is a vulnerability in and of itself. And if you look at, for example, SolarWinds last year, I mean, one thing is clear, we're spending a lot of time and energy trying to go through these compliance processes to make our systems secure, or tell ourselves that our systems are secure. And they're clearly not, or in the very least, they're certainly not bulletproof.
You propose 3 steps in this piece. The first is let's stop doing the same thing over and over again. That's pretty self-evident to me, and I'm sure to anybody that's been involved with ATOs. The second step you propose is launching the Federal Compliance Library. What would that be and how would it work?
We're really excited about the concept of a federal compliance library, and that really goes back to this concept of just sharing our work. The way we're doing it now, an agency over here is going through the ATO process on a certain system, and we maybe have an agency over here going through the same ATO process for a similar or sometimes even an identical system. And we're not sharing our work, so the process requires writing a bunch of SSP, system security plan narratives. In the very least, let's see what we can share, and that's putting this out there in the Federal Compliance Library, probably hosted in a product like GitHub. Let's put as much out there as we can without a login, just for ease of use, so the agencies can go and grab it and speed up the process of doing all this paperwork. In the short term, that seems like that's low-hanging fruit.
This third step that you're proposing is let agencies experiment. How would you like to see agencies experiment in ways that they're not today?
Well, one of the things I'd really like to see is OMB and the Office of the Federal CIO, or some of the new leadership in the White House, really put a spotlight on this issue. I mean, ATOs have been a problem. The process to launch systems in government has been a problem for a very long time. I think when a group like OMB puts a little spotlight on it, and maybe a little light oversight too. I mean, let's be reasonable about it. We can't expect agencies to go from 0 to 100 overnight and suddenly have compliance as code and complete automation. But if we push them a little bit, put a little oversight on it, sprinkle a little funding, and maybe that funding comes from the Technology Modernization Fund, we have them sort of experiment with one system or 2 systems of pilot projects. We're working with CMS right now on a pilot project called Rapid ATO, and that's exactly what we would like to see across the agencies.
How much experiment would too much be?
Well, I think, we talked about that in preparation for our day 1 policy paper on this, and that's the point I'm making is agencies can't go from 0 to 100 overnight. Like if OMB, for example, or NIST were to require, let's get all the compliance statements in machine readable language by 2022, that would be too much. We couldn't get there. It would overburden agencies. But we want them to be able to have the guidance and the resources to start trying and seeing if they can get one ATO and do it in an automated way.
Are there organizations inside government agencies or parts of agencies that are trying this, that are doing it well already? Mary, you referenced CMS, and I imagine there might be others.
CMS is the one I'm working with. They're really forward-leaning in this area. I know that the Defense Digital Service has a rapid ATO, continuous ATO type process. Kessel Run, a lot of the groups over in the Air Force are doing a lot of work with this. And again, I just think if we can get the GSAs of the world, the NISTs of the world, to really just kind of look at what agencies are doing, provide more guidance, provide more resources, and a little bit more funding, then we can see a lot more of these good agencies doing good work.
Mary, thanks very much for coming on and talking about this. I appreciate it.
Thank you.